A boss be rising, baby TV's igniting. Turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited. From the gravel roads to the neon dreams, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss be rising, sky ain't even the ceiling. When she hits go live, everybody feels it. She's the queen of the comeback.
There is a fascinating thing that happens when your children grow up and have children of their own. You think you've finally reached the part of parenting where you're going to relax a little. Maybe drink your coffee while it's still hot. Perhaps occasionally make a plan that doesn't require checking six other people's schedules. Then your phone rings. Somebody needs a ride. Somebody needs a babysitter. Somebody's car won't start. They forgot something. They had to work late. Somebody needs $20 until Friday. And somehow the woman who finally got all of her own children grown has been promoted to director of family emergency services without applying for the position. Listen, tonight we're asking a question for grandparents everywhere. When did grandma loves helping become grandma is always available? Let's find out.
Need advice? Ask a bee. The answers may not be perfect, but they'll be entertaining. Submit your letters and let Bee mind your business for a while.
Yes, by all means, let B mind your business for a while. Welcome back to Ask a Bee and the final night of our week talking about parenting adult children. Now, we've talked about helping out rescuing, giving advice, they may completely ignore, uh, learning where grandma belongs when our children become parents themselves. And last night we stopped everything, absolutely everything, to celebrate the adults our children have become. Mine in particular, since it was his birthday. But tonight we're ending this week with something every parent of grown children eventually has to figure out: boundaries. Because loving your adult children and grandchildren doesn't mean you stopped having a life when they started theirs. Grandma may absolutely be part of the village. The question is whether anybody remembered to ask Grandma before they built the village around her schedule. Well, let's check out this letter we got today. All right, here we go. Dear B, I love my children and absolutely adore my grandchildren. If one of them genuinely needs me, there isn't much I wouldn't do to help. I love spending time with the grandkids. I don't mind helping with rides when I can, and I've certainly helped my grown children through difficult situations. That's what family does. But lately, I've noticed something that is starting to bother me. Somewhere along the way, asking whether I'm available seems to have turned into assuming I am. I'll get a phone call saying, "Can you watch the kids tomorrow?" When what they really mean is, "We already made plans and now we need you to watch the kids tomorrow." Mm. Somebody needs a ride, and apparently the transportation plan is grandma. School closes unexpectedly, pardon me, and suddenly everybody is looking in my direction. And because I've usually said yes in the past, I think my family has started hearing my previous yeses as one enormous permanent yes that never expires. The difficult part is that I genuinely want to help. That's what makes getting or setting a boundary feel so uncomfortable. If I say no because I'm tired, I feel guilty. If I already have plans, I start wondering whether my plans are important enough to justify saying no. Sometimes my plan is literally staying at home and doing absolutely nothing. And apparently, I've convinced myself that doing nothing doesn't count as having plans. Meanwhile, my adult children have jobs, relationships, responsibilities, and lives that I respect. Why do I sometimes have trouble remembering that I had those things too? I raised my children. I worked. I sacrificed. I rearranged my life around theirs for years because that was my job when they were little. Now they're grown, but somehow I still feel selfish when I don't immediately rearrange everything when one of them needs something. Mm. And then there are the grandchildren, which is where every ounce of common sense I possess becomes unreliable. Because if my grown child asks me for something, I can occasionally say no, put one of those grandchildren babies on the phone, and apparently negotiations have ended. But I also don't want resentment creeping into something I genuinely love. I don't want spending time with my grandchildren to start feeling like an obligation because everybody assumes grandma will always be available. I want to help because I choose to help, not because the family schedule quietly depends on me never saying no. Not a bad request. So, how do you stay involved, supportive, and dependable without becoming everybody's automatic backup plan? How do you tell the people you love, yes, you can count on me, while also making it clear that counting on me and scheduling my life for me are two completely different things? Signed, apparently, I'm the backup plan. Okay, backup plan. Let's talk. So, there is a difference between being dependable and being permanently available. Okay. Being a person that your family can count on is something to be proud of. It means you've built relationships where people know you'll show up, right? When something truly matters. But dependable doesn't mean accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If every scheduling problem automatically becomes grandma's problem, we're no longer talking about occasional family support. We've quietly created a system that depends on one person just continually rearranging her life. And the strange part is that nobody necessarily intended to take advantage of grandma. You know you didn't. We know you didn't. Families just they develop habits. Grandma said yes the first 10 times, so everybody stopped imagining that that number 11 might be different. Sometimes boundaries are necessary because, come on, people are deliberately disrespectful, but they're necessary because everybody became comfortable with an arrangement nobody ever actually discussed, right? So, another point I don't want to is sometimes enough of a reason. I don't want to. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I don't want to. It's okay to say those things, because you do have a life, right? And you're tired, and people get tired. This may be one of the hardest things for parents and grandparents to accept. We think saying no requires evidence. I do it all the time. No, I'm sorry. I really got this to do. Y- Why do I have to say that? No, I'm sorry, I can't. If we're sick, definitely acceptable, right? If we have an appointment, okay. But what if grandma is tired? What if she wants to watch television in her pajamas? What if she planned to spend Saturday reorganizing a closet, taking herself somewhere, working on a hobby, or doing absolutely nothing? Rest is a plan. Free time belongs to the person who has it. And honey, you've earned it. You don't have to prove that your plans are more important than somebody else's need before you're allowed to keep them, right? Helping family is generous. It stops feeling generous when you believe you're not allowed to choose otherwise. That's the part that gets me. because I have my choices. And yes, my choice is to take care of my grandchild. And yes, those wonderful things that we do together, they're my choice. But if somebody were to tell me, this is what I need you to do, and this is how I need you to do it while my child is at your house, well, we'd have to have a discussion about that. Because, first off, my house, I can abide by your rules, but still my house, right? You know, I only have one grandchild, so I don't have a whole lot of experience with all that yet. My daughter and I would get along quite well. And I listen to her, she listens to me. We go back and forth about what we're doing with her daughter, and it's good because we communicate. I think that's the most important thing. And see, knowing that there might be an issue, we've walked into this with communication. That is the biggest thing you've got to do is find the communication. You've got boundaries, you can have those. Just communicate them, right? Because if you're not talking about these things, then all you're doing is throwing up walls. It's not a boundary, it's a wall, a full on brick wall. And people get hurt with those, plain and simple. Grandchildren can turn a perfectly functional boundary into mush, too. There is not very many times that I say no to my children about my grandchild because I just want to be grandma. And I'm happy being grandma. It's honestly one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Having my children was one of those things too. And watching them have their children is another one of those things. Yes, I've had to pull myself back out of the relationship a little bit just because I felt like I was intruding, but that's why we communicate so that neither is intruding and neither is doing the wrong thing or, you know, you have to have communication no matter what relationship you're in with anybody. And let me tell you, my daughter and I, we talk way more than me and my son do right now. And it's not a woman thing. It's because we respect each other. And that is the second biggest thing that I want to talk about. Communication and respect. You have to have that between each other or it's just not going to work. Saying no to your grown child is one thing, but saying no when you know that decision affects your grandbaby can feel completely different. That's exactly why grandparents can become the automatic solution without anybody deliberately planning it. And nobody's putting any blame here either, okay? I'm not an expert, I'm just a mom and a grandma. But it's been my experience that we are better because we talk. You know, sure, there are some times that I feel like something's been planned without actually asking me, but if it bothered me, I know I could go and say something. So if it does, I will. And there won't be any consequences for that because it's communication and respect. And we don't do ugly, not when it comes to the grandbaby. You just don't do ugly. Nobody needs to do ugly for anything. But when it comes to those grandbabies, you need to be extra special careful because you don't want to lose that child because mama or daddy are mad at you either. And that is a factor. That is something they can do. And no, I'm not saying that it's a good thing because it's not. I don't think you should punish the child that way, but it'll happen sometimes. Look, grandma doesn't want the child inconvenienced, disappointed, or caught in the middle of an adult scheduling problem. So she steps in again and again and again. Eventually, everybody knows which button works. But loving grandchildren, it doesn't require solving every logistical problem surrounding all of them. I mean, I have one grandbaby right now, and the logistics are kind of fun, but not a pain in the ass. Okay. It's manageable. In fact, preserving the joy in that relationship, it may require protecting some separation between grandma, what wants the kids today, and grandma has the kids because every day else or everybody else made plans, right? I don't mind having my granddaughter as often as I do. It's not a problem for me because they're helping us out with something, so we're helping them out with something. That's respect. That's the respect. Okay. Grandchildren should get a grandmother who is excited to see them, not one who feels or loves them, not one who loves them deeply, but is quietly exhausted from being, permanently on call. And sometimes that happens even with me, my granddaughter is here every other weekend and I have her at least 3 days a week. And I'm okay with that. But sometimes I'm a little tired because I work too, trying to get this channel off the ground, all these different things. But here I am, still doing as much as I can to try to be grandma. And I'm always going to do that. But I can't be permanently on call. And they know that and respect it. That's communication and respect. If I have something I need to do, they'll switch weekends with me. If they have something they need to do, I'll switch weekends with them. Mutual communication and respect. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes the boundary problem, it really does start with us. And this one might sting a little. If we've spent years saying, call me anytime, of course I'll do it. Grandma's always there. The answer's never going to be no, because I've said that myself. And rearranging everything without ever saying when something was inconvenient. Our adult children may genuinely believe the arrangement works for us. People can't respect boundaries that you've never communicated. Then one day, grandma is furious because everybody assumes she'll help and everybody else is confused because grandma has always volunteered. That doesn't mean you're stuck with the arrangement forever. It means changing it may require a conversation instead of an explosion. And again, had you communicated your feelings together between the two of you, or three of you, or however many, I'm sorry, my fan is blowing my hair everywhere. The fact of the matter is, if you would just communicate respectfully, all those problems get solved. It, you don't want the explosion. I love helping you, but I need more notice. Ask me before making the plan. I can help Tuesday, but not Wednesday. Boundaries don't have to sound like rejection. Sometimes they're simply information people should have received sooner. So I guess the ruling is grandma part of the village or did the village put her on the payroll? Never on the payroll, obviously. But families are supposed to help each other. There will absolutely be emergencies when everybody drops what they're doing because someone genuinely needed them. But everyday life cannot constantly operate like an emergency. So, where is the line between being an involved parent and grandparent and becoming the infrastructure holding everybody else's schedule together? If grandma says, or grandma saying no once causes the entire family system to collapse, was grandma ever really helping, or had everyone quietly become dependent on her availability? And maybe the biggest question is this: we can teach our grown children that they can always come to us when they truly need us, while also teaching them that loving mom doesn't mean owning mom's time or grandma's time, right? Seriously. So maybe the healthiest family isn't where one where nobody ever needs anybody, right? Maybe it's one where people can ask for help without expecting it, give help without resenting it, and say no without everybody treating it like a declaration of war. Grandma can be the village, but grandma can be the emergency contact too. Grandma can absolutely show up with snacks, rides, hugs, and whatever else the situation calls for. But grandma is also a person with her own plans and responsibilities, energy, and life. And after spending years raising children, perhaps one of the privileges of this stage is finally getting to decide what you do with some of your own time. So, yes, call grandma, ask grandma. Grandma might even say yes before you finish the sentence. Just remember one tiny detail: ask grandma before you schedule grandma. Tell me what you think in the comments. You guys hit that like and subscribe for me, please. Hey, are grandparents supposed to be the family's automatic backup plan, or does the village need to check grandma's calendar too? Hmm? Well, I didn't hear nothing in those comments out there, but listen, you guys, I'm really glad you were here, and I really hope you have a wonderful Friday night and Saturday evening. I'll talk to y'all soon. Go check out my Tuber chat buds. Word up. I'll buzz you later. Bye bye.
I want to take a minute to shout out TuberChat. If you're a creator who's tired of surface level advice, yet says, and actually wants to understand how YouTube works, that's the space. It's real conversations with real creators who are in the trenches building channels, testing ideas. No posturing, no gatekeeping, no fake guru energy, just people sharing what's working, what isn't, and why. If you're serious about growing, learning, and not doing this alone, check out TuberChat. The link is in the description.
Boss be right.